Hey everybody, so this is the second video for week 3. In this lecture we're going to be going over the modify tools, and I sort of have them listed here. So in the last video what I showed you essentially was how to create, say, two-dimensional geometry just by just drafting. So we created a drafting view, which I've done here, and I called this one modify tools. And I've essentially drafted this whole drawing out here. So I've made these lines, and I made this text, and so on. And if you remember how to get to those drafting tools, you do annotate detail line. Here are those drafting tools. And one thing to remember, detail lines are view specific. So these aren't in the model per se at all. They're just in this view. So now we're going to go over the modified tools that go along with the drafting tools, the geometry tools. Now these modified tools work for when you're doing modeling stuff. So when you're doing walls, floors, and so on. But they also work when you're doing like 2D stuff, like in a drafting view. So I'm going to show you how all these work in a drafting view, but just know that they equally work in the model. So with those doors and so on. And I'll give you a brief example of that just to show you what I mean. So let's start with a line right here. Okay, so we're just going to kind of go down the list. I'm going to put some geometry in it, and then I'll show you what the tool does. So first off, how do you get to the modified tools, right? So before we saw them when we clicked on detail line, when we were working with this area, but they're over here, and it's not like I want to draw a line now. I just want to, well, actually, let's draw a line first. Let me take that back. I'm going to put two lines in here. Okay. Now my geometry is drawn. Now I want to modify that geometry in some way using one of these tools. How do I get to those modified tools without going through detail line like we were to draw the tools, draw the geometry? So we can just click on modify right here. That'll take us to this panel, which is where we're living right now today. So how does a line work? A line essentially says, hey, I want this to be aligned with this. In fact, let me just shorten this. I want this to be aligned with this. Pretend these are walls, maybe they're lines, whatever the case may be, the tool works the same. So I'm going to go to the align tool, which is right here. And I'm going to click it, and I'm going to say, this is where I want the line to go, and this is the line I want to go there. Boom. Goes right over. You're going to use this tool all the time. Let me undo that. We'll do this side. I'm going to hit align. In fact, let me get out of the tool completely. Go modify, align. I want it to go here. Boom. It'll move over there. Very useful tool. You'll use it all the time. Let me just show you real quick what that looks like with, say, two walls. I'm going to do something like this. Okay. Actually, what's the best way to get rid of that? So these are kind of look like lines, right? Same principle. Modify, align. Now I can click on either side of the wall, or I can click on the middle. Now I want this to be aligned to that middle. Okay. So the geometry works the same way. Three-dimensional geometry works the same way as the two-dimensional drawings like I'm showing you here. Okay, offset. I'm going to just draw first a circle. Okay, now I'm going to go modify. Now here's the offset button. OF is your shortcut. I'm going to grab that, and personally, there's two options in here. Personally, I think numerical is the only one you'll ever use. I wouldn't even worry about the graphical. I think it's confusing. Let's just keep it to numerical for now. You can play around with the graphical version and just sort of click your way through it. But this is the one I really want you to know. So let's offset this circle 1 foot and let's make a copy. I simply hover over one side of that line and it'll show me where it's going to go. So if I change this to 3 inches, hover over one side, hover over the other side, shows me where it's going to go. And I can offset until the sun comes up. I didn't like that last one. It's not centered. Okay, there it is. Offset. Pretty simple tool. Mirror is an interesting one. So let's go ahead and draw some geometry of your choice. I'm going to do a curve. Ooh, I don't like that one. Notice how picky I am. Okay, so now and I'm going to draw one more line. Like here. Okay. I want to mirror this over this line. So it sort of flap over that line and be a copy. Okay, so I'm going to go to modify. I'm going to go to this tool right here, mirror pick axis. So first thing I'm going to do is select the geometry that I want to mirror, click the tool, then click the line I wanted to mirror about, and boom, we have a copy and it's mirrored over the line we want. Let me undo that. I'm going to click it again. And for now, let's say you don't click the line first. Let's see what happens. I usually click the line first. I'm used to doing it that way, but let me click this. It says, okay, well, let's just select the line and then we'll select this line. Oh, it doesn't like it. All right, I'm going to try selecting the line, hitting enter maybe. Yep, got to hit enter in between. So I could select a bunch of lines. So I could go boom, boom, hold down Control to select more than one, hit enter, and then select a different line to mirror about, and it'll mirror over there. But I think the best way to do it is just sort of click the objects you want to mirror first, then click the mirror pick axes, and boom, there you go. Okay, so for mirror draw, it's basically same concept, but you're going to draw the axis instead of having to pick one that already exists. So sometimes you need both. Sometimes you need to pick the line. Sometimes you need to draw it. It just depends on what you need to do. So let's make a squiggly spine here. Okay, so I'm going to select that line, mirror pick axes, and I'll just draw it. I'll draw one point. I'll draw the next point. Boom. It mirrors over a line that invisible line that I drew there. So let's do that again. Mirror. Just draw a vertical line. Boom. Gets mirrored over. Pretty straightforward. Not as straightforward as these two. Okay, so let's put some geometry in there. Move is our best friend here. So I'm going to select the geometry, go to move. I can click anywhere in space, right? I don't have to click on the object to move it, but I can just select the object and I can say, hey, move from this point, put it down there. Okay. I can say move from this point, move it over here. So I don't need to click on the object. I can click anywhere in space to move that around. Now, let's see if here's another way to move. I can just click on the object, hover over an edge, hold down with my left mouse button, move it wherever I want. That's a way to move it imprecisely. But the way to move it precisely is to select it, go to the move tool, and just move it. Okay, so copy. Get some geometry in here again. Something in here. Okay, let's copy this. So I'm going to select all these lines, go to the copy tool right here. Now, same principle. I'm going to click that. Now, in the options bar, constrain is a very interesting thing. I don't really like constrain. It'll sort of lock it to like a horizontal movement or a vertical movement. I usually, anytime I see constrain, I uncheck it. But the one thing you want to watch here is multiple. So if I want to make multiple copies, I definitely want that checked. Same principle. I'm basically moving it, but it's making a copy. So I'm going to just click anywhere in space. Put it there, put it there, put it there, put it there, put it there. Okay, very simple. So I'm going to select one of them again, go to copy, and in this case, I'll grab an edge and move it to another point. So it's very precise copy. So you can sort of move things willy-nilly and you can copy things willy-nilly, but to be precise, you really want to go from a known point to a known point. Okay, rotate, pretty straightforward. There's a little trick to it. Don't put a circle. We're not going to be able to see it rotate, but let's just do a simple rectangle. All right, so if I select all these lines, I go to the rotate tool. Looks like it's saying, all right, rotate from where to where, right? I'm going to rotate about this point, but rotate from where to where? I can just click once, move my mouse. I can type in a value, or I can just find the value and click it. Okay, rotate, click once, click again. Rotate, I can kind of lock the horizontal, move it up, 25, enter. 25 degrees, it rotated. Now, sometimes when I hit rotate, you see the center of rotations here. It's like, well, I don't want to rotate about that center point. Is there another place I can rotate from? To do that, you just simply hold your left mouse button down on that middle kind of point and move it, say, to here. And now I can say rotate about this and rotate it up 10. Rotate, move it here. Boom. There we go. So that's rotate, pretty simple. You'll use that one all the time. Trim, extend a corner. I love this one. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 lines in here. So if I click that button, okay, trim, extend a corner, I can just go boom, boom. Very simple. It's like fillet with a radius of 0 if you're familiar with AutoCAD. Okay, so let me just show you that in level 1 plan. Say I got another wall over here. So I've let me just delete this one. I've sort of made these walls pretty loose. I'm just sort of trying to get started here. I can say, oh, I need these to come to a corner. I can grab that and go boom, boom. Very useful. You'll use this all the time. Okay, split. Yeah, this can be useful. I don't use it all that much, but let's just show you how it works. So if I make a line in here, I can go to the modify tool and go to the split command right here, split element, then there's split with gap. This one won't work on this line. This kind of is more used for like walls, where this one's used for lines. So if I click that and I can go slice it here, slice it here, slice it here. Now I have a bunch of separate lines, which is really nice to sort of have. So instead of one line, I got 4. I can delete this one. I can do something else with these 2 and do something with this one, for example. Super useful. The other split tool is split with gap. So if I click that, it says joint gap 1 inch. I can do 1 foot just to show you. And if I click on a wall like here, boom, puts a joint, puts a 1 foot gap in that wall. And then I can sort of, these are sort of tied together. The gap is, I can unjoin that, and then I essentially have 2 separate walls. So another useful tool. You can, I believe, also use just split on it. Let's try. Yep, you can just use split, and it'll just split it without joining it. So and maybe we can bring these back together. Let's see. Yep, it'll sort of get absorbed there again. Useful tools. Okay, array. This one, again, I don't really use this one all that much, but it is useful. So I'm going to try to explain this, but really what you need to do is play with it. Just play with it as much as you can. So I'm going to make some geometry in here. Let's do this. Okay, there. Oop. I hit escape too quickly because you need to click once, click twice, click 3 times. Not right where I want it, so I'm just going to move it down imprecisely and just get it in the box here. So here we have a simple ellipse, right? So I want to array this, meaning I want to make multiple copies, and I want to be able to say how many copies, and I just want the computer to do it. I don't want it to use the copy command and click, 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 click. Okay, so that's what an array is. So I'm going to go to modify. Here's the array tool right here. So what I'm going to do is select it, click the array tool. We've got a couple options. We can do a linear array, meaning it's just going to go in a line, or we can do in a line that I define, okay? Or we can do a radial array. Let's start with linear. And basically, I define how many there are. So let's say 5. Okay. So if I keep this on the second little dot here, it says second, and leave that dot there, here's what happens. I'm going to come down to my little ellipse. I'm going to say, copy this one over this distance and do it 5 times. So 2'7", click. These are all 2'7" apart, and it just goes down the line. I can always, let me just deselect it. If I select it, I see this little 5 here. I can always click that, hit 10, and now I have 10. Okay, so in that first option, you're defining the distance, right? So I'm going, grabbing the ellipse, hitting array. I'm saying make 5 of them and define the distance. Let's do 2'6". Okay, 5 2'6" apart. Okay, makes sense. All right, so here's the next one. I'm going to select the tool or the ellipse, go up to array. I'm going to do linear, but I'm going to do last, and I'm going to do, let's do 8. So what this is saying is I want to put 8 copies between here and here, and it put 8 in between. I can, of course, change this, and it'll always keep that overall distance, where the other one, you don't really know the overall distance. It's just sort of copying them out into oblivion. Do I use that one that much? No. You know what I use? Copy. That's just how it is. Okay. So I do want to show you scale, another one I don't use that much, but let's copy this one over. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to select all this, and I'm going to copy this from here to here. Get rid of this, and I will change this text here to say scale. Okay. Not enter, click in space. Okay, so I'm going to move one of these over, and let's do the scale. So I can select this, hit scale right here, and I can do a graphical scale. So I can click somewhere on this object, and I can say scale it. Let's see. Oh, I had to click once on the object, click again to define the start of the scale, and click again to find the end of the scale. So let's do that again. Scale, click once on where you want to scale from, and then say from scale from here to there and make it bigger, or from this first click to here and make it smaller. That's one way to do it. That's the graphical method. If I click this and hit scale, I can also do the numerical scale and just hit like make it twice as big and click somewhere, and it'll just make it twice as big from that point. Again, I don't really use that one. I don't really need to use that one ever in Revit as compared to CAD. Okay, so I showed you this trim extend to corner. There's these other trim extend tools that you can sort of play with if you want. I don't use those very much. I find them not quite as intuitive, but play around with them and just kind of watch the video and watch your status bar down here to tell you what to do. They can be useful. Everyone uses these programs differently. The last things I want to point out are just some very simple things right here. Pin and unpin and delete. So one of them self-explanatory. If I click like a line here and click delete, it goes away. I can click a line. I can click the delete button, or I can hit the delete button on my keyboard. It's your call. Pretty simple. Let's say I want this pentagon here to not move. Okay, I want it to stay right where it is. I can use this little guy right here, which is the pin tool. So if I click pin, all those lines, they aren't moving. Okay, so if I click on one and try to move it, it doesn't let me. Okay, so that's just locking it into position. I can click it again and unpin it. So a good technique to get into, say, when you're making grid lines like in your model. In fact, let me just do that real quick. architecture datum grid. I'm just going to draw a couple grid lines. In fact, I'll use this one. I'll copy it over, let's say 12 feet. And then I'll copy this one over 12 feet. Okay, now let's say I know for a fact that these grid lines need to be exactly where they are. And I don't want to mess with it in the sense that, like, if someone else is working on this file, I don't want them to move it around by accident because, right, I can click on something and just go like that and move it. So I could select these, or yeah, select all three and go up to pin. And now nothing can happen with these. They're pinned, they're locked, can't move them. You know, if all your architecture is based off of these datum lines, these grid lines, then you know, they're pretty important to be in place. So you want to make sure that they're stuck. So it's always good to sort of lock something that has that sort of quality. Okay, that's it for the modify tool. I'm going to do one last video about filled in region, and then you'll have all the tools at your disposal for your assignment. Thanks, guys.